Hey, it's Josh coming to you from the RPM shop. Just wanted to take a little bit of your time and bounce over this Nitro 20. It's been out for a little over a year, and we haven't done any tutorials on how to tear these things down and put them back together, so we wanted to do that. We've got the videos, the tutorials on the classic Nitro, but we've had quite a few customers that have asked, you know, if they're the same workings, if they're different. They're basically the same as far as engineering. That said, you know, we've had quite a few customers that have wanted to swap out the energy limbs from the standards to the mags, the standard string limbs to the XL, so the longer draw. So what I'd like to do is just walk you through how to replace the timing cable, which is a Gen 2, that split timing cable system, how to replace the cam cables, the saddle cables, adjust the draw length, adjust the draw weight, swap out the bowstring, basically a breakdown and reassemble from start to finish. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and show you how to replace the timing cable in one of these Gen 2s. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to take out the two screws in the grip. And for just the sake of video, I've loosened up a lot of these screws, so it's going to take you a little bit longer than what it's taken me, because I've loosened these screws up. So go ahead and pull the grip out of the riser and set that off to the side. Then right here on the shelf area, you'll notice that there's a nylon insert. In order to get these timing cables routed, you're going to have to take that insert out. It's best to go from the grip area up, and you can use a flat bladed screwdriver and Allen wrench and just pop that, and then it'll slide up out of that groove in that riser. You're going to want to keep that and make sure that you don't lose it, because if you don't reinstall it, there's a sharp metal edge in here that can chafe that timing cable, and then ultimately it will break it. So once you've done that, then you're going to go back down to the bottom timing wheel, and there's a big flat screwdriver, which is our tensioner, and then there's a set screw, an Allen set screw, that holds that tensioner tight. What you're going to want to do is just loosen that set screw up. You don't have to take it out, just loosen it up, and then take a big flat bladed screwdriver. Don't get a small one, or you're going to gum up or mar up your tensioner. And then just back this thing out so you see these cables come out the bottom of the wheel. Then you know that it's loose enough that you can flip this bow over and you can de-string the timing cable off of these idler wheels. You can loosen that one, then loosen that one. Then up here on the top, there's two crimps that go down into this top timing wheel. Once those are out, slide them back down through the riser. And then I'm going to swip this back around so you can see on this tensioner wheel here. Take a ballpoint pen or an Allen wrench or whatever, and then push on that tensioner screw, and then that thing will pop out. Then you're just going to work this old timing cable out, and if it's still in good working order, just reinstall it. I will warn you that once they've been wrapped around that tensioner, they're a little tough to get in, but you can still do it. Best case scenario, if you're going to swap this out, is to just get a new cable and use this one for a backup. So either throw that in the trash can or throw it in your bow fishing bag. Then what you're going to want to do is grab your new timing cable. So there's a big crimp that holds both cables together on the bottom, and then you've got the two smaller crimps. Then what you're going to want to do is there's a groove in this timing wheel right here. Lay those cables down into that groove and then install this crimp into the tensioner. Then you're going to back this out, so once it's in there like that, you're going to take this big standard screwdriver again, and you're just going to walk this into that timing wheel just like that. And then you're going to give it just a little bit of tension, just so that you know that it's routed correctly. So you do about 1/8 of a turn, and then you're going to grab these timing cables, and then we're going to start routing them. So then you're going to bring this top one. I'm going to rotate this around so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So this one here, this cable is going to come in, go around this idler wheel, back up through the riser, and then through the other side. So just like that. So this wraps around this idler wheel here, and then this is going to go to the top of the timing wheel. So the only place that it's going to touch a plastic idler wheel will be down here on this bottom side. So then you can take that back off, because we know that, and then you're going to install it into that top timing wheel. There's a hole up there that you can set that in, and then we're going to reroute that, put it into the groove. So now we're good to go there. This other one goes the opposite way, and it's going to come up through the riser like that, through the riser all the way up. Come on, baby. There we go. Like that. And then this one is going to go over this idler, but we don't need to install that quite yet because we're going to punch it into the timing wheel. Then we're going to use a little bit of finger pressure, wrap this around. Obviously it's come loose down here, and then we're good to go. So now it's all routed correctly. There should be one twist in it. So the cable that goes across this idler wheel here shouldn't go across this idler wheel. If it does, those cams are going to fight together and you're never going to get the bow to load. So then once we've got it routed, now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the tensioner. I'm not going to turn the bow around just because it's hard for me to do it, or run this tensioner. And then you're just going to go clockwise and put a little bit of tension onto that cable. Then we're just going to make sure that everything's routed correctly, everything looks good. And then, once you've got a little bit more tension on it, then you're going to take that same set screw onto the tensioner wheel, and you're just going to tighten this down. And again, we're going to go back in and do a fine-tune adjustment after we get this grip on, because if you imagine, once you put this grip on, these cables are going to be forced in and they're going to go tighter. So we'll put that back grip on, and then we're going to put this front grip back on. Set those in there. And again, for the sake of video, I'm not going to tighten these all the way up. I'm just going to get them finger tight. About like that. About like that. So we're squared up there. Then what you want to do is just feel these cables and make sure that they're fairly tight. You don't need them guitar string tight. I personally like mine a little bit looser. And then the last thing you're going to do is you're going to put that nylon insert back down into the riser. And as you draw the bow, if that nylon insert starts to gravitate up, you can put just a little bit of silicone on it to hold it down, or just a little bit of knot glue. Don't use a bunch, but it needs to stay in there. If it's not in there, then those cables are going to rub. So then we're going to go back up here and we're going to feel, and that feels pretty dang good. You don't necessarily need them, like I said, guitar string tight. I like mine on the little looser side. There's some guys that are out there shooting target arrows, hunting arrows, and they've had these top timing cables come out of this top timing wheel. The way that you're going to fix that is either by increasing the amount of tension on these cables, or you can use just a little bit of silicone on those crimps and then get it to seat down in there, let it dry, and then they won't come back out until you replace that cable. Then you can pop them right back out. So that's how you replace the timing cable on a Gen 2, one of these Nitro 20s. Now, the next thing that we're going to cover is how to replace the cam cables, saddle cables. We're going to open up the hinges so that you can get to those hinge screws and tighten those suckers up. The way that you're going to do that, and again, for the sake of video, I've loosened this bow up a fair bit. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to go to your timing screw here, which is on the outside of the cam. You're going to loosen this up, and you're actually going to remove it. You're going to take it all the way out. So back this off, and then what you're going to want to do is grab these bottom cables, the bottom cam cables, and pinch them towards the string. What that's going to do is it's going to rotate this top timing wheel and allow you to get this weld nut out of the back side of this timing wheel. Again, it just makes it a lot easier to work on. The next thing that we're going to do is you're going to take your 3/16 Allen wrench and you're going to back out these limb bolts. And again, for video, I've already loosened these up. And you want about 3/8 of an inch gap, or if Brand can zoom in, you'll look at the side of this hinge pocket guide. You want it basically coming out, but not all the way. You can take these limb bolts all the way out. The problem is then that's just an additional step to reinstall them. You don't have to do that, but you definitely want to have enough that you've got about 3/8 of an inch on the top and the bottom so that it makes this bow go loose. The next thing you're going to do is take out the draw stop screws. And so, I mean, there's a jam nut, and again, you're just going to back these suckers out so that we can get to those hinges. It just takes a little bit of time. You're going to back these out, both top and bottom. And then once you've got, again, the bow backed off as far as poundage, then you're just going to set the bottom limb on your shoe or something soft. Set it on the carpet, and then you're just going to push down on this top string limb. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the bow to go limp, and then you're just going to take the bowstring off that top limb. Take it off the bottom, set it off to the side. Now, this part goes pretty quick from the perspective of taking the cam cables off. What you're going to do is you're going to force these cams up towards the limb tip. So you're going to bring them up, and then there's two crimps. You're going to pop this crimp out, bring it up over the saddle, and then pop it out of the other. That's all there is to it. And if you notice, I haven't let go of this cam. To reinstall them, all you do is just simply put them back into the cam on the opposite side of the timing wheel, put the crimp into the other side, make sure it's seated, and then use your thumb to go up and over that saddle. Then you're good to go. I mean, that's it. That's how you change out the cam cables. You'll do it obviously to the top and then the bottom. So again, rotate the cams up. It'll make these cables go loose. Take that crimp out over the saddle, pop the other one out, set it off to the side. If you're going to replace the saddle cables, again, take the cam cables off, set them off to the side, and then you're going to rotate these cams the other way. So you're going to rotate them like this, and then the limb's going to lay over. These two crimps in the saddle cable will come out, and then we're just going to pop this limb out of that limb pocket. Set it up like that. Now, again, the reason that we took this draw stop screw out is so that this hinge system can open up. Now, if you're going to replace the saddle cable, then you've got an 1/8 inch Allen screw here. You're going to loosen this up. There's a weld nut on the back side. It happens to be a 1/2 inch, so you can tighten it down super tight if you choose. Generally speaking, you can just do it finger tight and it'll catch, and then so you're going to loosen this up, pop that off, and then replace this saddle cable. One word of caution when you replace this saddle cable is don't tighten this screw down super tight until the bow is back together. The reason being is this is how you adjust where that limb tip lean is. If you don't have these cables exactly perfectly straight, this tip is going to lean one way or the other because again, you've got more tension on one side or the other. So leave this screw here, leave it a little loose until you get the bow all put back together, bring it up to draw weight, and then you're going to force this limb over, which is going to slide this cable whichever way. So if the limb is leaning this way, you're going to force this limb over, and then you're going to tighten this screw down, and that's going to hold this thing dead straight. So that's how you do that. And then again, if you've got, if you want to tighten up the hinge screws, what I recommend is opening this thing up just like this, and then you're going to loosen it about a 1/2 rotation, then tighten it down, then go to the next one, loosen it up a 1/2 rotation, then tighten it down. If you're replacing energy limbs, it's just these two screws here. If you're replacing the string limbs, it's these two screws here and this saddle. So you take this off, put it onto the new limb, and then take these two screws out. While you're doing it, you might as well tighten up the other two screws because it's right there. The next thing you're going to want to do when you go back to reassemble is grab yourself some white lithium grease. And then all you're going to do is, and you can actually see it on this bow that I've got, you're just going to put a little bit of white lithium grease right here on the limb tips, and then right up here on the top in those corners, you want just a little bit of white lithium grease right there. The next thing that and then set that limb assembly off to the side. The next thing that you're going to want to do is take the limb pocket, and you're going to want to run just a little bit of that white lithium grease right here on that rocker. So then you're going to reinstall the limb pocket like that, slide the limb, and again, I'll show you this just for reference. There's a stainless washer and a nylon washer. Make sure that you've got those on top of that limb. So you're going to put that limb pocket back together like that, slide this limb in and make sure that that stainless washer and that nylon washer are on top of the limb, and then you're going to bring this up so that it sets into that this saddle, into that rocker, just like that. So then the next step is to rotate these cams up towards the limb tip, and then you're going to install, and you're going to see it on this other side when I get this one installed. You're going to install the crimp. I like to do the one that's on the non-timing wheel side first, and then you're going to rotate these cams back. So then once you've got this on the opposite side of the timing system, once you've got it installed, then you're going to rotate this back over, and see how I've got this pinched? You're going to keep that all together like that. Make sure everything's lined up, and then you're going to rotate this cam assembly forward, install that crimp, and then watch it rotate around, and then make sure that it's still riding on both sides of this saddle. Make sure that it's inside that. Make sure it's routed correctly, then grab your cam cables, and again, start with the off timing wheel side, install the crimp, then you're going to install the other crimp, like this, And again, so you got it here, and then we're gonna lift it with our thumb and go up and over that saddle. As long as you have enough tension on this limb bolt, this assembly will stay together. If things start popping out, it's because you don't have enough limb tension on that limb bolt. So just tighten it back up. That's basically a turnkey way to do that. And again, this is the top. You're gonna do the exact same thing. It runs the exact same way on the bottom. So I'm not gonna go through that whole step. As far as replacing that. But that's how you tighten up those hinge screws. That's how you swap out an energy limb, or excuse me, an energy limb. That's how you swap out a string limb. And then all you're gonna do is put your string back on. So you're gonna put it on the bottom first. And as long as the bow doesn't have a whole lot of draw weight, then you just, again, put it down on your shoe or on your carpet or rug, and then push down, and then that's going to put the bowstring back on. Again, at this point, if you replace this string limb, this screw should be loose. And then you're gonna put some draw weight on it, so it's about 1 full revolution on the top, 1 full revolution on the bottom. That's 4 pounds increase, same thing obviously decreased. So you're gonna bring that draw weight up to where you feel comfortable with it, and then you're gonna check it. You're gonna watch this groove here and make sure that string is perfectly straight, and then right down here in front of the saddle, make sure it's not cast off one way or the other. Once it's straight, then you're going to go ahead and tighten up that screw. Don't forget to tighten it, because it will move back and forth. Make sure you tighten that sucker up. But that's how you're going to make sure that the limbs stay aligned. Another thing that we found is that when you install these energy limbs into this pocket, there's a little bit of movement there. And what you can see or what you can hear is the cables actually rubbing inside these cams. And if you see that, what you're going to want to do is obviously see which cable is rubbing. So if this cable's rubbing right here on this cam, then we need to force this assembly that way. And the way that you're gonna do that is by putting a hand down here on the limb pocket and then using your palm, and right here at this hinge, it just takes a little bit of a touch like that, and it'll move that limb over so that you have clearance into these cams. You shouldn't ever hear any clicking, you shouldn't hear any rubbing, you shouldn't see any scratches on these cams. If you are, what's happened is the bow's just a little bit out of alignment, and you can pop that over and it'll straighten everything back up. So the next thing that you're going to want to do, again, we've talked about draw weight, 1 full revolution on the top, 1 full revolution, that's about 4 pounds. Get the bow back down to the approximate draw weight that you want, and then you're going to reinstall this this timing screw and washer. And the way that you're going to install this weld nut is you're going to go back down to the bottom, pinch the cam cables to the string, and it's going to rotate that timing wheel so that you can get it into this back groove. Then you're going to install your timing screw back in to the cam, leaving it a little bit loose. You don't want to tighten it all the way up yet, because we've still got to measure the bow for tiller. And the way that you're going to do that, so once the timing screw's in and it's loose, you're going to adjust the limb bolts so that you feel like they've got about the same amount of gap down here on the bottom. The hinges show about the same amount of gap, and then you're going to take a tape measure and you're going to measure from this part of the cam, that point, to the string. So you're going to go from here to the string, and then you're going to go from here to the string. And those measurements need to be identical. That allows this cam assembly and this cam assembly to rotate over at exactly the right time. If they don't, then you adjust, and you adjust this by either increasing the draw weight on the top or decreasing it, and a quarter half revolution is a lot, and it will move this bow up and down just like this. Once these measurements are exactly the same, then you're going to go back over to the timing screw and you're going to tighten this sucker all the way down. So you're going to tighten it all the way down. Then everything's set up and ready to go. Then you're ready to fire the bow. You can go ahead and put it on a bow scale. If you've got a fish scale, a luggage scale, you can measure the draw weight, make sure it's exactly where you want it to be, and then you're off to the races. The last thing that you're going to want to do is adjust the draw length. And again, you do that with these draw length screws. So you just back these in, and depending on where you want that draw weight at, if you want it shortened, you lengthen this up. So increase the length in between the saddle and the top of the draw screw. So if you want it shortened, increase this. If you want it lengthened, then you back this back down. Once you've got the top, once it's drawing at the right draw length, and so you're going to measure from the burger button hole, which is this rest hole, back to the string. So when you've got it back drawn, make a mark on an arrow. That's going to tell you what your draw length is. Once you've got that, make sure that this screw on the top and the screw on the bottom or hitting those limbs at the exact same time, and then just tighten down those jam nuts, and then you're good to go. Then it won't move anymore. So that's basically the quick and dirty as far as the tutorial on how to tear these things down, put them back together. If you ever have any questions, feel free to give us a call in the office. It's 801-528-8076. And more importantly than all that, hope to see you out on the water soon.